Alright everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is the Jordan Report and I'm your host, Robert Jordan. Please like, subscribe, and share. That's very important. Alright, I want to do a quick analysis on the Byron Allen Comcast deal that recently went to the Supreme Court. And I'm going to show you a clip from 2015 of Byron talking about why he filed the suit against Comcast, and how he talks about how Obama was involved, Al Sharpton, CBC, all the people that are claiming to be on his side now. Anyway, here's an old article. I'm going to go through this article real quick, and then I'm going to show you the clip. And in case anybody don't know, Byron Allen used to be a comedian. He's a media mogul now. He owns a whole bunch of television stations. He was a comedian back in the 80s and 90s. He wasn't a big star or anything. But he's a media mogul now. He owns a weather channel, believe it or not. I didn't know that until I got into this story. But anyway, it says CBC blasts Trump's DOJ Comcast for attacking black people's civil rights in Supreme Court. The CBC is a Congressional Black Caucus. Okay? As you go into the story, you see they're involved in this on the other side. The lawsuit between Byron Allen and Comcast has drawn the attention of at least one major African-American organization as the case heads to the Supreme Court. A case headed to the U.S. Supreme Court that could have a tremendously negative impact on the black community's civil rights as it pertains to fair play in contracting and other measures and beginning to capture attention. They're right, this is a very important case. Nearly a week after the Justice Department filed an amicus brief in regard to the lawsuit between Entertainment Studios Chairman and CEO Byron Allen and Comcast, at least one group has reacted, blasting the Trump administration as the case moves forward. Allen is suing Comcast and Charter Communications over racial discrimination after the cable giant refused to include Entertainment Studios programming on their networks. He cited a violation of Civil Rights Act of 1866, whose section 1981 prohibits racial discrimination in contracts. This means the impact of the case could affect civil rights across the board by setting a precedent in which companies will be guided as to whether or not they are subject to the provisions of the statute. If the Justice Department's brief is favored by the Supreme Court in November, it means the interpretation of the statute could affect the intention of it to protect African American civil rights, which is held for more than 150 years. The controversial brief filed by the DOJ says that they want Allen to prove that race was the singular motivating factor in his claim, which he says unfairly misinterprets the statute of his disadvantage. In an opinion piece published on thegrio.com this week, Allen called it perverting a key provision of the law that protects minority businesses at a time when people of color are under heightened attack. All for what Comcast says is in its best financial interest. We reached for comment on an unprecedented move by the Trump administration and Comcast to attack the civil rights of African Americans. A spokesman for the CBC released a statement to the Grio. The Trump administration has aggressively worked to dismantle policies meant to root out discrimination, said Gabrielle Brown, communications director for the CBC. We have long said that as egregious Donald Trump's racist words are, his policies are even worse and doing the most damage to minority communities. Our caucus is committed to continue aggressive oversight of the administration to mitigate the impacts of his dangerous and out-of-touch policies, which includes opening the door to discrimination in contracts. It is unclear, however, if the CBC will file its own amicus brief in relation to the case. I bet they won't. The Grio has reached out to several civil rights organizations on the issue, including the Naacp, National Urban League, Rainbow Push, and the Color of Change, but has not heard back. As a representative of the NAN, Al Sharpton's group, said officials with that organization were not available for comment. None of them want to talk about this because I'm going to show you this clip. Why? And Byron Allen is going to tell you they're all involved, including Obama. Listen very carefully.
America's most prominent, outspoken civil rights activist.
By the way, this was filed in 2015. This was published March 2nd, 2015.
And now Al Sharpton, along with Comcast and Time Warner Cable, are facing a 20...
Notice the tag on the bottom is saying Al Sharpton, Comcast sued for racial discrimination. So they're saying Al Sharpton is part of the suit on Comcast. Allen is suing Comcast as well as Al Sharpton. You'll see what he says.
$1 billion lawsuit over alleged racial discrimination against black-owned media companies. Now, in the complaint, Byron Allen, a comedian, TV presenter, and CEO of Entertainment Studios, alleges that Comcast gave Al Sharpton that 6 p.m. show on MSNBC, for which he's been paid approximately $750,000 per year, despite notoriously low ratings, and in exchange for his continued public support for Comcast on issues of diversity. Now, it all sounds kind of convoluted, and I want to get to the bottom of it. So joining me now in Los Angeles is Byron Allen. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Brian, for having me.
This case has been getting a lot of coverage this week. We've heard from Comcast, and I'll read their comment in a minute. But tell me the 1-minute version of what you're alleging.
Real simple. The cable industry, AT&T, DirecTV, Comcast, Time Warner, they spend about $50 billion a year licensing cable networks and advertising, with less than $3 million per year going to 100% African-American owned media. Now, what they do is they make token donations to people like Al Sharpton, the NAACP, the Urban League, and after taking those donations, they negotiated a fraudulent MOU that says this is okay for black people to live by. What America needs to understand is that Al Sharpton does not speak for me. Al Sharpton does not speak for black people. It's like I ask people, who is the white person who speaks for you? It's racist to even believe that Al Sharpton is the go-to person. Shame on you, Sony, for thinking sit down with Al Sharpton and that negates your racist emails about President Obama. So it's real simple. These token donations they make to him, as reported in the New York Post, allows them to have racial cover. This is why we're not getting enough advertising or any advertising from McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Chrysler and General Motors and AT&T. They don't spend any money with African-American owned media. Something that's very alarming, AT&T spent more money on Al Sharpton's lavish 60th birthday than they spent on Ebony magazine, the biggest African-American magazine in America, around 70 years, 10 million readers per month. AT&T spent only $30,000 on that magazine. Walmart has given money to Al Sharpton. Walmart doesn't spend any money in Ebony magazine, and they barely do business with me in a long-term partnership, and I'm constantly going back and forth with Walmart and Chrysler as well. So he is the least expensive Negro. Don't really do business with real African-American owned companies.
Something like that sound. I mean, when you say that about Al Sharpton, are you saying he's
the numbers are actual. The numbers are just follow the money. That, you know, don't do business with real African-American owned companies. Just make a token. Give him $50,000 and a bucket of chicken, and we're good. We won't have any problems with real African-American owned media. You should not be Chrysler. You shouldn't be.
This is a victim of Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, the CBC. This is all their tactics. Can you imagine how much money this man has lost? Even though he's a wealthy man now, can you imagine how much money he's been cheated out of because of the antics of Al Sharpton?
Giving him money and not spending money with me and others like me and Stevie Wonder's radio station here in Los Angeles.
But aren't you trying to shake them down the same way by filing this lawsuit, which you know is not going to succeed?
Brian, let's define a shakedown. He doesn't give anything in return. I am a legitimate businessman. I am one of the largest independent producers of television and media in the world. I have 36 television shows on the air and 7 24-hour HD networks.
That was in 2015. He's grown since then.
They're not letting us participate in the $50 billion that they spend on licensing and advertising. There's a very big difference. He's the shakedown. I'm the legitimate entrepreneur. We have to make sure that...
We're showing some of your programs right now, but let me read Comcast's response. I think it's really important to hear their side here. They say this complaint represents nothing more than a string of inflammatory, inaccurate, and unsupported allegations. We are proud of our outstanding record supporting and fostering diverse programming. They went on to say we will defend vigorously against the scurrilous allegations in this complaint, and we fully expect that the court will dismiss them. Now, Sharpton has not commented on the record. Do you have a question for him or a thing you'd like him to address about this?
No, Al Sharpton's not that. He's not important. He's nothing more than a black pawn in a very sophisticated white economic chess game. He's being used by his white masters at Comcast and AT&T. He just needs to shut up and get in the bleachers. What we have to do is get these corporations to understand you must include African-American owned media. We have to stop the financial genocide against the black community.
I mean, you understand how offensive this all sounds to someone like Al Sharpton.
Well, you know, I'm not worried about his feelings. I'm more focused on getting corporate America to understand it's time to do business with us. And President Obama has been bought and paid for. He has taken donations from Comcast. Comcast is his biggest contributor. AT&T is one of his biggest contributors. Listen, Obama.
Remember, he filed this lawsuit under Obama. This is who he's talking to.
Your own FTC is investigating AT&T for throttling. How can you even consider them to buy DirecTV when you're suing them? Is it because you took donations? Yes, Obama. Don't even think about letting them merge until they settle this lawsuit and that lawsuit. Comcast got caught. Well, let me, Brian, this is important.
Your main issues here are about the mergers, Comcast, Time Warner Cable, and AT&T DirecTV.
No, Brian, let me be clear. My main issue is about economic inclusion for African Americans. You know, Comcast deployed software that slowed down video over the web in 2008. They broke federal laws. That's like me robbing a bank and then after I get out on probation saying I want to be the president of the bank. Obama has to do more. I'm very proud of what Obama has done for the gay community. I'm very proud that he has achieved gay marriage. And if you can do that, you can achieve economic inclusion for all Americans, especially African Americans who have been left the furthest behind. Obama, you bailed out the banks. The banks you bailed out don't even make commercial loans to African Americans. Obama, you bailed out the car companies. Those car companies don't advertise with people like me and people like Ebony Magazine. Obama controls close to $2 billion in advertising. Join the Army, join the Navy, join the Marines.
It sounds like
we as African Americans do not receive.
Yeah.
Brian, you're not hearing me. Brian, listen to me carefully. My concern
I hear what you're saying. You're saying that they're not
African-American
advertising with independently owned media. These are issues about media consolidation. But I understand that you're making these racial points about how they affect African American communities and businesses. I do want viewers to know we read the Comcast statement, and we'd like to hear from Sharpton as well on this, and hopefully we can in the future. But Mr. Allen, I do appreciate you being here this morning and telling us about the suit.
Okay, Obama, do the right thing.
Wow. Okay. Now, see, you hear that? This is why I showed you this document first, or this article first, because they're trying to blame this on Trump. They're trying to shift the blame and say Trump is fighting Byron Allen. Trump's DOJ is attacking Byron Allen. Well, these people helped Comcast. They're complicit in what happened to Byron Allen. The same people, the CBC, Obama, Al Sharpton, all these people are now turning around and saying, or trying to blame this on Trump. So I'm just, giving you a report. I know there's a lot of people out on YouTube doing this. They're doing this, but they're not highlighting the fact that these people are responsible for everything that happened to him. They helped facilitate what happened to Byron Allen.